Hello there and welcome back to another episode of our Luminar NEO Academy, the show where we help you to get the most out of this photo editing application. Now, if you've never been here before, my name is Jakub and I'm a creator and founder here at Clever Photographer. Now, before we going to start, I have a few things I want to cover. First of all, at the end of the video, I'm gonna give you access to our popular Luminar NEO shortcut cheat sheet, so you make sure that you stay until the end. Also, if you don't own Luminar NEO or the HDR Merge plugin, get our discount code to get the best possible price, and you can find it in the description of this video. Finally, I would like to ask you to please like, comment and share on this video, and also don't forget to subscribe to our channel so we can keep creating content like this. In today's video, I will show you how to edit interior photos in Luminar NEO. I have just returned from the trip to Oxford here in England, and I had an excellent opportunity to visit and photograph the world-famous Bodleian Library. The interior of this 420 years old library offers incredible views, and I have one raw image that I would like to edit with you. When it comes to interior design photography, the editing is done in 3 steps. First, we're gonna do the raw development. After, we take care of the special effects, and we're gonna finish by local adjustments. But first, as always, don't forget to download the sample file for this episode so you can follow me on your own computer. To do this, use the link in the description of this video, and once you download the files, use the Add Photos option to import them into application so we can start. And now, finally, we can start with the edit. As you can see, we are in the application, we are in a catalog module, and we are looking at the sample file. As you can see, it's a beautiful capture of the library with all the old books, beautiful window, and just a really nice view through the room. First of all, let's have a look at the details of this image. I have captured it with the Sony a7R Mark IV. I use my wide lens, which is 12 to 24mm f4, and the camera settings ISO 500, 12mm, f4 and 1/30th of a second. So I use the f4 to get the fastest shutter speed possible without the need of increasing my ISO. The ISO is still on 500, so we will have to do a little bit of noise reduction. However, that's all fine. Now we are all ready. So all we need to do is to click on Edit on the top of our screen, and we can start with the edit. As I mentioned on the beginning, the step number 1 is the raw development. When it comes to developing a raw file, we have 3 tools that we can use on our main toolbar. Of course, the main one, the Develop Raw tool. After that, if you have it, also the Noiseless Raw. And finally, the Crop AI. For us, we're gonna start with the Develop Raw tool. Click on it to open it, and first come first, we're gonna go into the optics. Here, you wanna make sure that each of these checkboxes is checked, just to take care of the lens distortion, also some chromatic aberration, and auto defringe. Once we're happy, we just close the optics and move into the transform. In a transform, we're gonna use the auto and line, and that will help us to sort the image a little bit. Once we're done with that, we can close it, and we're gonna move into the sharpness and noise reduction. Let's open both of them, and let's zoom in to at least 100% so we can see what we're dealing with. To do that, we can use the little button at the bottom of our screen, select the 100, and now just move around. Looking at it, there is a fair bit of noise here, so we're gonna go into the noise reduction and bring it up to 20. When it comes to luminosity slider on the noise reduction tool here, I like to keep it around the 20 or 30, because after that, you're gonna start to really remove the details and everything will start to look really soft. Once we're happy with the noise reduction, then we move into the sharpness. For the interior design, we can use the nice 100 number formula, and it's really simple. You take the number 100, then you minus the amount you entered into luminosity, so 100 minus 20, and that result you enter into sharpen slider. So we have 100 minus 20 is 80, so we add sharpening to 80. Once we're done with that, the next thing we need to do is masking. We want to make sure that we only sharpening the part of the image or the parts of the image that they have edges, texture, and structure. So let's do that with the masking. Generally, for most of the cameras, it's good to set it somewhere between 70 or 75. Once we're done with all of this, we can close it and we can move to the light and black and whites. So let's open those sections, make sure that we have everything nice and visible. We can also zoom out and continue. First come first, we need to take care of our highlights and shadows. So we are looking at the window and starting with adjusting the highlights. We want to bring them down. We don't want to completely remove it, but just want to bring the glow down a little bit. So let's go somewhere to minus 90. After this, we can go into the shadows. We definitely want to open them. So we're going to take the shadow slider and bring it up. Now, if you do it too much, the picture will become way too bright. It will really look very HDR-like. We don't want to do that. So we're going to go just somewhere around, let's say 40, maybe too much, 30. So we're going to start with highlights on minus 90 and shadows on 30. Now we need to take care of the blacks and whites. The easiest way to do this is to hit J on your keyboard, which will bring the clipping mask on your image, and you can easily see the areas that are overexposed as they're going to have the red overlay, or underexposed as they're going to have this blue overlay. So first come first, before we're gonna take care of the black and whites, we're gonna open curves, and in the curves, we're gonna take care of this super bright area. So we're gonna take the point on the top of our curve and make sure that you're on the gray one here, and we're just gonna bring it down a little bit. So just drag it down until the red disappears. So this way we have removed most of the overexposed area and we can close the curves and continue. Now with the blacks, we want to bring them down a little bit. It doesn't matter that some areas are really dark. Let's just create some nice contrast. So we go to minus 50. With our whites, we can add a little bit, but we want to be careful. Again, when you overdo it, you will see how we get more and more of this red overlay. So I think again, very gently, just somewhere around maybe just 10. Once we're done with this, we can close the black and whites and come back to our light. Here in the light, now we can add some nice contrast. Generally for this type of image, I stay around 10 or 20. Maybe 20 is even too much, so let's go to 15. With the exposure, for the time being, I would leave it. We don't need to adjust that. So we can close the light and now move into the camera profile and color. Camera profile will help us to adjust the overall look of the image. At this moment, we're using the Luminar default, but let's have a look at some others. Adobe Standard looks pretty much the same as Luminar default. Camera Standard is way too yellow, and actually at this point, the clipping mask is a little bit distracting, so all you need to do is to hit J again on your keyboard. It will disappear and we can continue. So back to our camera profile. I think this is a bit too warm. Now hovering over the portrait, maybe even warmer, clear, no, maybe the deep or landscape. I actually think that the Luminar default look the best, so we leave it there and we're gonna move straight into the color. Now it's time to set the white balance. Now when it comes to setting the white balance, this is something that is very much part of the artistic decision and something that you will have to decide based on what you like. Preferably to start with, you would be looking for more natural result. To do that, make sure that you stick around the initial points with your sliders. While we have the temperature here, we can make it a little bit warmer or cooler, and if you double click on it, it will reset. For me, I would like to add a little bit of warmth, gently, but let's say somewhere around maybe 4000. After that, we also need to adjust our tint. Looking at the image, from my view, I think it's a little bit too green, so we actually gonna add a little bit of magenta by taking the slider towards the right. Once I'm happy with the result, which I think is somewhere around 15, we can move on. And now it's time to set our saturation and vibrance. What I like to do is to take the saturation and bring it down a little bit. usually somewhere around -10 or -5, and then use the vibrant slider to add a little bit of more natural saturation. So let's say that we go to 15. Now we are done with the initial development. Let's have a look at the before and after, and I think we're looking great. If you do have the option of using the Noiseless AI extension, now I'm gonna show you how to do this. Once again, we had a fair bit of noise here, so we would go into our extensions, open the Noiseless Raw tool, and here, following the advice, we're gonna apply the low adjustment. It will take a moment, scan the image, and then applies the noise reduction into it. Once the noise reduction is applied to the image, it zooms you into 100% so you can move around and see the result. And once you're done, you can zoom out, and if you're happy with the result, you can now close the tool and continue. So now we are almost done with the first part of the edit, and the only thing that is left is to do the cropping. For this, we can go into our Crop AI on the top of our main toolbar, and here we're gonna adjust the ratio by clicking on a gray drop-down box. What we're gonna do, we're gonna select the 16:9 to make it nice and cinematic, and then use the little hand on the image to adjust the position of the crop. Once we're done, we hit enter, and that will crop the image for us. Once the crop is applied, we can now move to the step number 2, and that's using the tools and features of Luminar NEO to enhance the image even further. So we have finished with the develop raw, we're not gonna use the enhance AI, and we're gonna jump straight into the structure AI. We can open it. Depending on your vision for this image, you can increase the amount and add some clarity and texture to the image. However, for me, for this type of old and romantic scene, I like to take the amount down and make it just a little bit more natural. So let's go to -15 and then close the tool to apply it to the image. After this, since we're here, we can use the color tool and then jump into the HSL section. If you can't see it, just click on the HSL, click on a gray drop-down box and select the saturation. What we're gonna do here, we're gonna take care of this blue haze. I don't really like the blue here on the floor. I think it's a little bit distracting. So to take care of that, what we're gonna do, we're gonna jump into the blue slider and just bring it down until the blue disappears. If you wanna have some blue on your image, you can use masking. However, I quite like what I see. Let's have a look at the before and after. And once we're done here, once again, just close the tool and move on. We're not gonna use the black and white, but we're definitely gonna use the details tool. Here in the details tool, you can adjust the details for your small, medium and large details separately. I prefer to use the small and medium details. So let's start by increasing the small details to somewhere around 10. We can also zoom in if we want to see the difference. And generally, I also like to take the medium details and increase them to somewhere around 7 or 10. Once we're happy with the result, again, we close the details and we will continue. We can zoom out, and now it's time to move into the creative section of our main toolbar. Here, we're gonna start by going into the mystical tool, as I really like to use this one for this type of photography. It will add a nice glow and a romantic and fantasy feel to the overall image. All you need to do is to increase the amount and see what you prefer. Looking at it, I think somewhere around 20 is looking good. If you want, you can also open the colorize section and here increase the warmth to add more warmth into the adjusted areas. Again, let's have a look at the before and after, and it's kind of subtle result, but it's looking quite nice. Now we can close the mystical tool and continue further. As we are trying to create a cinematic look, as we already used the cinematic crop, use the fantasy mystical tool, the next thing I like to do is to use the matte tool to crush the dark parts and add a little bit of fade into them. So very gently here, just use the amount slider and keep an eye on the darker parts of your image and add a little bit of that vintage fade feel. For me, I think 10 is looking good. We can add a little bit of extra fade with the fade slider. So again, somewhere around 5, and I think we're looking good. Now we are almost done with the special effects. All I want you to do is to go to the bottom, to the professional section, and here open the super contrast. I really like this tool as it allows us to adjust the contrast separately for highlights, midtones and shadows. I never really use the shadows, however, I use the midtones and highlights sliders a lot. Starting with the midtones, let's push them a little bit, somewhere around 10. And with the highlights again, just a little bit, I think maybe around 15. Always keep an eye on the before and after to see the difference. And when you're happy, again, close the tool and we can continue. The final thing for this part of the edit is to apply a little bit of LUT and overall color feel to the image. For this, we're gonna use the Mood tool. So click on it to open it and then click on Choose LUT Gray drop-down box. As a part of the sample files for this tutorial, I have gave you some nice interior LUTs, so just click on Add Custom LUT file, then navigate into your sample files, open the rustic interior LUTs, select them all and click on Add. Once you return into the application, you can now click again on the gray drop-down box and now navigate into the custom LUTs. Now you can hover over the different LUTs and see what you prefer. For me, I think the 4 is looking good, but 1, 2. So let's go with the 1. And now if you want, you can adjust the amount of the LUT further. So let's see, I think just somewhere around 30 is looking fine. One more time, let's have a look at the before and after, and this is looking great. So let's close the Mood tool, and now we can continue to the part number 3, where we're going to be doing the local adjustments. Now, before we're going to continue, I want to quickly remind you that this tutorial is powered by our Luminar NEO Spring Bundle. This bundle brings you over 910 new Spring elements to power up your favorite Luminar NEO tools. Get extra high definition skies, overlays, textures, backgrounds, frames, LUTs and presets to transform your images with just a few clicks. To get the best possible price, follow the link in the description of this video. And to find out more about it, visit our website cleverphotographer.com. And now, moving on with the third part of our edit, where we're gonna be taking care of the local adjustments. The first one, the most classic local adjustment you can make, is the vignette. So let's move on into our main toolbar and select the vignette tool. Here, start by adjusting the amount slider. Let's go into the minus. Usually, I like to go somewhere around -40. If you're not sure about the amount, make sure that you step back from your screen, let's say 1 meter, and usually that helps to see the overall amount of the vignette. For me, I think -40 is looking good. Let's have a look at the before and after. The nice thing on the Luminar NEO and their vignette tool here is that you can select the Choose Subject button, now hover over the image and actually select the center of the vignette. So if I click here, I can select the center of the vignette to be here and help to navigate the viewer's eyes. Once I'm finished, I can click again on Choose Subject and I can close the tool and continue. Now we're gonna move on with the edit and apply some dodge and burn technique to the image. In very basic idea, what we're gonna do, we're gonna make certain parts of the image brighter and other parts darker. In Luminar NEO, you can use the dodge and burn tool at the bottom of your main toolbar in the professional section. However, I still prefer to use the develop tool as I feel I have a more control over the effect I'm applying to the image. So we're gonna use the develop tool, so click on it to open it. Then open the light section and increase the exposure to somewhere around 0.4. After this, also open the shadows a little bit, so let's say around 5, and then open the color section and just add 1 on the temperature. Now we can close this and move into the masking. For this, we're gonna be using a brush, so let's select brush. Let's make sure that we are on paint. Adjust the size, let's start with something reasonable, 173, softness on 100, and with the strength, let's go to 70. Once we're happy, let's say that we're gonna click on the first part we wanna make brighter. And as soon as you do that, the overall effect will disappear, and now it will only appear in the areas where we're going to paint. So let's add a little bit of glow in this area, adjust the size of our brush, and again, similarly add more warmth and brightness here, between the poles, and also in this part. Then I can move to the bottom of the image here, add a little bit of brightness here, and again here, on the other side as well. I think there is enough glow on the window itself, so we don't need to work there. However, maybe in this part, and definitely in this part. We can also add a little bit of the brightness here. And I think to start with, we are looking good. Let's have a look at the before and after, and it's all good. The next thing I would like to do is to add a little bit of glow into the same areas where we have just added some exposure. To do that, we're gonna come back into our masking and click on Mask Actions at the bottom. Here we can click on Copy, and now we can close the Develop tool and apply it to the image. After that, we're gonna go into the Creative section and move into the Glow. Open the tool, and first thing first, we're gonna click on Masking, and again on Mask Actions. Here, click on Paste, and what it does, it takes the same mask we have created earlier and apply it to this tool. If you want to see it, you can click on Show, and you can see that the same areas are selected. So let's hide it and move into the adjustments. Here we're gonna increase the amount, and you can keep an eye on the areas how they're getting some extra glow. Now the glow is a little bit too strong, so let's adjust the type of the glow by clicking on the gray drop-down box, and let's select the Orton effect. That is looking quite nice. If we want, we can add a little bit more or less. Let's have a look. I think somewhere around 30. And again, check the before and after. So this is how we made some spaces brighter and added some additional glow into them. Finally, I think we need to make some spaces darker to create a little bit more contrast. So again, we're gonna use the Develop tool. In the Develop tool, this time we're gonna bring the exposure down. I think just somewhere to minus 0.3. We can also close the shadows. So let's go to maybe minus 10. And once we're happy, we're gonna go again into masking, into the brush, making sure that we are on paint. Size, let's make it a little bit bigger. Softness on 100, and strength, let's start with 60. Don't forget that you can adjust the size of your brush with your bracket keys. And now just paint over the areas you want to make a little bit darker. So maybe the center here. Also the bottom area here. Again, this area here. And maybe even the pole here. And maybe the area under the actual window. Once we're happy, all we need to do is to close the Develop tool and again apply it to the image. And by doing that, we have completed the third part of our interior design photo editing here in Luminar NEO. So one more time, first of all, the basic raw development. After that, future enhancement with all the tools you have available in Luminar NEO. And the part number 3, the local adjustments, starting with the vignette and then adding a nice contrast with the dodge and burn technique with the help of some other tools available in your creative section. Before we're going to leave, let's have a look at the before and after. And I think the result is really nice. And there you have it. If you want a copy of our popular Luminar NEO shortcut cheat sheet, there is nothing easier than heading to our website cleverphotographer.com/luminargive. While you're there, you can also check out one of our popular Luminar NEO products, or you can stay here and watch more videos about Luminar NEO. For today, I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please make sure that you like, comment, and share on this video. And also, don't forget to subscribe to our channel so we can keep creating content like this. For today, thank you very much for watching. My name was Jakub, and I can't wait to see you in the next video.